Hey everyone, this is Rob over here at BuneBape, and I hope you're having an amazing day, because for one, I'm not, and I'm bringing you all another Outriders video. So, probably a couple things you noticed is there's not any music for this video. I'm just going to throw up some gameplay, and it's going to be more of a talking head video. I don't really do these, but honestly, I'm pretty perturbed at the recent patch notes, and that's what this video is going to be on why I think the patch notes so far are relatively insane, and the direction that they're going in. So I'm just going to go through and post a few pictures of the patch notes. Of course, I'll have them in the description if you want to check them out in more detail. But I'm really just going to be giving my thoughts on the current patch notes, what the good is and what the unfortunate bad is. Overall, I don't want this video to be extremely negative, just more so a criticism, constructive criticism of the current patch notes, and luckily I am still holding out and taking solace in the fact that this build is the patch note build as it is right now will not go into the game until potentially next week, as they've said in the notes themselves. And of course, we're going to be covering that. So if you are interested in my take on these patch notes, make sure to stick around. I mean, like, subscribe, whatever you want. But like I said, this is mostly for hopefully the devs see this and understand why I think a lot of their choices are unreal and just not smart. So this isn't going to be a normal video, like I said. It's just going to be my thoughts, a little rant. I've already been ranting about this for like 10 minutes to Michelle, and I figured I'd make a video about why it's so off-putting. So of course I woke up this morning because I was actually pretty excited to check out the patch notes. People Can Fly and Outriders over on Twitter have been kind of talking about it, talking it up a lot. So I've actually been really excited to, get into it, see what, route they decided to go with all the balances and fixes and stuff like that. And I am actually happy. There's a lot of good changes in the patch, even though, like I said, this isn't going to be the happiest of videos. So here we go. The first one that's actually really good news. I'm going to start with the good, so I'm going to go through all the good changes. And it's going to be multiplayer stability and connections. Of course, this is good and amazing. I, just like a lot of people, have not played with anyone or any of my friends or anything like that on purpose, just so that we don't drop, crash before the game even is over, like I know a lot of people have. On top of that, I don't want to lose my gear, straight up. I don't want to, get a bunch of gear that I've been farming for 10 hours and have it disappear. I mean, they can restore your gear, which is cool, but I just didn't want that to happen. So this is nice. They're ending up fixing it, making it so that you and your friends, when you connect, will not crash, or at least hopefully nearly as much. And, that's great. Great change. Really glad that they got on that sooner than later. And hopefully I'll play with some people once this patch goes through. Hopefully. So the next thing that's really good is going to be this right here, which is going to be connected to the first part, which is going to be the inventory wipes and restores. So like I said, a lot of people have been getting their gear wiped just for completely no reason while playing with their friends, crossplay. Seems like as long as you were playing with other people in multiplayer and you got kicked out or dropped for whatever reason, there's a chance that you were going to lose all your gear. Obviously, this is terrible and not something I would ever want to experience. So I just didn't play with friends. So now maybe I will, like I said, with the connection stuff. And on top of that, if any of you have been a victim of this, then you can get your gear back. They said it's going to be a one-time thing, which is great. If you lost your gear, that sucks really bad, but it's really nice that the devs are going to these lengths to restore your gear. I mean, a lot of people are saying, oh, this is what they should do, but a lot of companies don't do this. So it's nice to see that they're going, the extra mile to make sure everyone's wrongs have been righted, and that doesn't go unnoticed. You know, that's a really great part of this patch. And going on to the next part, it's going to be the next good thing, which is the little appreciation package they talked about. They haven't ironed out all the details, but here you can see that they want to give us a cool emote, potentially, a legendary of correct level and scale and value, as well as a proportionate amount of titanium. That's cool. Doesn't really affect me. I mean, the legendary will be cool, but it's whatever. It's cool. It's a nice gesture. You know, like I said, they clearly know that they messed up, or that the servers messed up, and they want to show their appreciation for us sticking through it. And so I really appreciate that. Again, they're just going and doing a little bit extra than I think a lot of companies would. And again, that's not lost on me. That's really cool, and I'm glad that they're doing that. So that's pretty much it, unfortunately, for all the good. If you want to know the rest of the patch notes, I'm going to go over them right now. And this, in my opinion, is the bad part. And then I'm also going to give my thoughts on it afterwards, just so that if you're only here for the patch notes, you get the patch notes. And then if you're not here for the patch notes, and then you can stick around. So the next part is here. So they have an entire section on rebalancing. And that's the part that is the not good part, that we're slowly wading into these swampy waters of nerfs, honestly. That's the unfortunate part. I was telling Michelle about these patch notes, and the unfortunate part is literally every single thing in these patch notes are nerfs. But like I said, I don't want to get into my thoughts right now, so I'm just going to go over them real quick. And the general balance notes is they made it so if you were doing the exploit for the Historian, Bounty Hunter, and Monster Quests, on repeat, you could do them subsequently over and over again with just one other person, a friend or something, and you could get like 10 to 20 legendaries every 10 to 20 minutes. It's by far the best way to get legendaries, and legendaries are honestly the key to doing huge amounts of damage, at least currently as it stands. And so one nice thing is they said that this is not punishable, so they're not going to watermark any people. That was a big fear, I know, at least for me and a lot of other people, is you would get punished for it. So they said they're making it so you cannot get legendaries after your first turn in, which immediately solves the problem, which is cool. And also you will not be punished. So that's neat. It is unfortunate because people will probably never do these quests again now because they have no chance of giving you a legendary. But that's, you know, I guess part of the fix. I don't really feel one way or the other. I wasn't doing those anyways, but if you like doing wanted quests and hunt quests for legendaries, then now there's no way you can get one. So maybe you can get one still from a reward, but I don't know. They don't mention that here. On top of that, they made it so the best way to get loot, of course, was by killing hunt beasts over and over again, hunt targets, such as Tuka Beast, Split Tooth, Sandshifter, and Cold Claw. All these are the fastest repeatable hunt quests, and they nerfed all of them, so they're going to make it so you're just getting less gear in general. Yeah, like I said, I'll leave my thoughts till after, but that's that. And the next thing is they made it so so the end game, if you don't know, is these expedition time trials. And these expedition time trials were apparently a little too lenient for a couple maps, in their opinion. And so they reduced the allotted time you were given to get gold, silver, and bronze on Chemplant as well as Boomtown. On top of that, the prevalent builds in the game right now are weapon builds and gun builds. They take advantage heavily of assault rifles, as you can see in the gameplay right now, as well as burst assault rifles specifically, as well as snipers. Specifically the one that I have on my back here, which is the standard sniper. It's like an 8-shot and it has a 300% crit multiplier. The crits in this game are the reason you're doing so much damage with these gun builds, and so they went and nerfed the two main guns. So burst guns as well as snipers have had their crit multipliers nerfed. Moving on to the only mod that they nerfed, which is actually extremely surprising. But they had a temporary nerf on the Massacre AP mod for miniguns for Technomancers. This is the only way that I found the minigun builds would even be remotely close to scaling into endgame. So they nerfed that. Like they said, it's temporary. Hopefully it actually is temporary, and if not, then just like rest in peace all minigun builds. Moving on to the final part, it's going to be about the actual bullet rebalancing itself. This is going to be for the 3 main rounds builds: volcanic rounds, blighted rounds, as well as twisted rounds for the respective classes. So these were the target of all of these nerfs up until now, essentially, because the only people that could do the Chem Plant and Boomtown fast enough were using these builds. On top of that, they were using these weapons, and all of those got nerfed. That's why I was surprised about the Massacre AP nerf, because it wasn't part of the meta currently that's being abused. And so what they did is they went through and nerfed all of the blighted rounds and everything of the like. So, you know, like I said, I'm not giving my thoughts yet, but that's that. They also nerfed a few specific tree notables for every single class, all of them relating to these blighted round builds, essentially. Because blighted round builds would work on stacking damage bonuses. So they nerfed every single, or not every single, actually, let me be honest, a few of the more notable ones. So stacking damage against poisoned enemies for Technomancer, stacking damage against ashed enemies for Pyromancer, and they nerfed like 3 different ones for Trickster. So yeah, unfortunate. And also, out of seemingly literally outer space, they also nerfed Vulnerable, the status effect. Before, it would do 25% additional damage if an enemy, or you would do 25% additional damage to an enemy if they were afflicted with Vulnerable. And this could be applied in a myriad of ways, from ash to toxin, punching people, literally anything could give them Vulnerable. And they nerfed it from 25 down to 15%. So that's pretty much all the notes. They have a little breakdown here of all the different patch notes that I'm looking through right now, and there's a bunch, but these are all the more notable ones. They also have a little launch connectivity post-mortem, so if you want to see what went wrong, they actually have a really descriptive little list there of things that they found to be the problems, and hopefully that they'll be able to avoid in the future. So it's nice. It looks like they got all their ducks in a row. And but that's about it for the actual patch notes. Now I'm going to get into like my actual thoughts on why this is, to say the least, going into the wrong direction. So patch notes over, opinion on. So if you don't care about my opinion, then you know, move on. That's fine. So like I said, we're moving on to the opinion part, and as I said at the beginning of the video, a lot of the changes they made were good. The connection changes, multiplayer changes, restores, the appreciation package, all these are really nice things. I'm glad they're doing it, and it's, like I said, a lot more than a lot of other companies would do, even if they had bad launches such as this. I mean, if you've played WoW, I've played WoW for quite a few years, World of Warcraft, and they've had launches much worse than this, and they never gave us any compensation packages. So, you know, like I said, this company's great and I really like it, which I guess is why I'm so passionate about the next part that I'm going to start criticizing, which is almost solely based around the rebalance part of these patch notes, and why I think they could be potentially ruining the game if they continue to go down the road that they are walking down, I guess, currently, to go along with that metaphor. And the first thing is I'm going to go from the top down of those rebalancing notes. And so the top one is going to be nerfing the legendary exploit. I put out a video recently on how I farm legendaries. I don't use the exploit. I never have. I totally understand why you would, though. Legendaries are a massive source of the cool things in this game. And speaking of the cool things in this game, you need those legendary mods if you want to do cool stuff in the end game. And by that I mean completing it. A lot of these are insane. Killing Spree and Balmer's Rage, both of those make the end game a joke, more or less, if you have those on your weapon. I'm using Balmer's Rage on mine. Just makes it so that you crit 100% of the time. The other one, Killing Spree, makes it so it increases your damage by nearly 100%. So just 2 times as much damage. Unfortunately, I didn't get an Amber Vault, so I don't have that, or I would be using that. And that's the way you can see people get 1 million plus damage hits with their burst rifle, and 2 to 3 million damage hits with their sniper rifles. So the reason that I have this particular Reddit post, or Reddit reply rather, on the screen is because I think that's how a lot of people feel, is that legendaries are really hard to get in general. And I think that's the general player frustration. And instead of fixing the general player frustration, they kind of just removed the only way that a lot of people would get around it, which was this exploit. So instead of essentially fixing the problem, in my opinion, they kind of just put a band-aid on it. Because the problem isn't that this exploit exists, it's that people would rather do the exploit than play the game the way it's supposed to be played. Because legendaries are so powerful and they are very, very hard to get. It's not that they're hard to get, it's just that they're extremely rare. You're not going to be getting them unless you are farming the end game or you play the game a lot. And for the 1% of players, we already have the legendaries we want, or most of them, at least for me. Most of the players I know that play as much as me have them. And that's the general problem, is that only players like me have them. If you are a dad, if you have like a full-time job, you're only playing an hour or 2 a day, you're not going to have these legendaries. You just straight up are not. Unless you play with a lot of people and are super efficient when you play or something like that, there's just no way. Unless you get lucky and you find an Amber Vault, or you farmed in the demo, like that second person said. It's really unfortunate that that's the case. This is, at the end of the day, a looter shooter and an ARPG style game at heart. So I'm not whining that there's a farm. This doesn't affect me. This affects the other 90% of players that haven't spent 30 hours in expeditions like me. It's really unfortunate. I do not want this game to die, but if you ostracize the majority of the player base and make it so that they can't get legendaries regularly and are struggling to do CT 14s and CT 13s and 12s, or just can't even get there because they can't get the legendaries or the gear in order to do so, I just don't think that's a good idea in general. Like I said, this is all just my opinion. Let me know down in the comments if I just sound insane. And this is obviously a rant video, so that's what this is. But there's also some constructive criticism in here. I don't want to just, I don't want, whenever they do display transparency, the company, People Can Fly, to like just have videos of me shutting them down. This is actually stuff that I think they could take to heart to improve their game overall. And so that's the direction that I have for this video. But with that being said, I'm going to move on to the next part that I wanted to talk about. And that's going to be the map changes, which is why I have this particular Reddit response up. And honestly, I think this speaks for a lot of people. Like I said, a lot of people can't do stuff as it is set already. Like I said, the patch hasn't gone through. And as the times are set currently for Boomtown and Chem Plant, a lot of people still can't do them. They're making it more difficult to get gold, silver, and bronze for these, which, I mean, that's what they think is necessary, but the only people exploiting the times available on these different maps, it's irrelevant to them. It's irrelevant for me. I do Boomtowns in 4 or 5 minutes. Reducing it to 6 minutes isn't going to make it any more annoying for me. Well, I mean, it will, but it's just going to mean that I'm still getting gold. Doesn't change it for me. What this changes it for is, like I said, for all the other people. There's a ton of people that still get very close to the wire on even getting silver for these, not just on CT15, but 13, 14. This person says it perfectly here. Zinxie on Reddit. I don't understand the drastic change. Me and my friends could barely do these on the time for gold and silver already. Everyone is doing them crazy fast for the for exploiting the legendaries. But like he said, this is at ultra endgame. This isn't every player doing this. It's not even close. It's really just people that are abusing the current meta of the gun builds. The meta that, honestly, the game has forced on us because we are going to find the best builds. We always will. And we're going to use them. And so it kind of feels like you're punishing everyone for playing the game the way it's kind of seemingly made to be played. You're going to find the meta and you're going to play it. And seemingly everyone's getting punished for that. Not a good idea. This other person right below him is also correct. He says, this is what everyone's been clamoring for, nerfing the strongest builds, making it suck for literally everyone else. It sucks equally for everyone, rather than buffing up all the other builds. I think literally everyone in the game thought that there was going to be some kind of skill or anomaly power buff, because that's what this game's lacking. Everyone is using 3 abilities out of the potential like 28 across all 4 classes. That's how you know you have a problem with balancing, obviously, but the idea in a game that doesn't have PvP is not to nerf it, but to buff others to make it stand on equal ground. Once everything's on equal ground, then maybe you can start nerfing things if you want CT15 and 14 to be harder. I would understand that. That would increase the longevity of the game, but what they did is they started to potentially try and increase the longevity of their game without having more than one build available to even do the end game. So, yeah, honestly, I think this is a really, really bad change. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say besides that. So I'm just going to move on to the next one. Again, they should just focus on the majority of players and not the YouTubers and the 1% that are just abusing the game, because that's the best way to play the game currently. So moving on to the third and final thing I wanted to address, and that's the rounds nerf. And the rounds nerf itself wasn't a big deal. It's obviously seemingly kind of necessary. Like I said, I would have rather have seen you, raise the tide to increase all ships, however that saying goes, instead of just sinking the only ship that is currently sailing. That was a terrible reference, but you get the point. You probably heard of it before. So I get the nerf for the bullet build, but this person says it perfectly. I literally couldn't have said it better. Just curious, why nerf vulnerability? Doesn't that affect all builds? And yeah, this person is absolutely right. The only way I've been able to build any other builds is around vulnerability, or with vulnerability in mind. It's a 25% damage increase, and I mean, I've put out other videos on builds and stuff like that. I'm trying to find other builds every day. I'm trying to find other builds. I have another one in the works right now. Again, it kind of struggles to do in-game content, and again, it uses vulnerability. This person also, I didn't include this, but another person said, they quoted the vulnerability and said, wow, this is a direct nerf to Pyro and Devastator builds. Pyro and Devastator are the only 2 classes that can effectively use skills as an endgame build. So the fact that you're not just nerfing the meta, but every build, is kind of the most insane part of this patch notes, to me at least. It kind of makes it seem like the devs or whoever made these changes want to increase the longevity of the game, making CT 14, 15, whatever it ends up being, harder to obtain and maintain, which would normally be fine, but they're relying on increasing the longevity of the game and hoping that people stick around to continue to play it, because all they're doing by doing any of these changes is making the grind longer and more difficult. which is cool and a good idea. But if people don't want to stick around to farm the end game stuff that you made so hard to achieve, then it doesn't matter. You're just gonna, like I said, ostracize all the working class people and all the people that aren't the hardcore players so that they don't want to play the game anymore. Because if it takes, I've seen people go as long as 5, 6, 7 hours in these lower challenge tiers and not get a legendary. That's the entire end game, is getting legendaries. So if they don't have that to look forward to on an entire Saturday, it's like, what's the point? And I mean, that's, I think, like I said, the main frustration is that it doesn't seem like they're looking out for the main player. They're looking out for the 1%. And by looking out, I mean nerfing. So, like I said, these are my thoughts. This was a super long video and a super long rant, but I had a lot to talk about and a lot to share. And I actually would be really, really, really interested. That's 3 reallys. So really interested to hear what anyone else has to say about these builds and about these nerfs and changes, because obviously I think they're going in the wrong direction. I think I made that pretty clear. Like I said, I don't have anything against the devs or anything. I just really like this game and would want to see it continue on. So if you think I'm insane and this is absolutely what the game needs, then actually tell me down in the comments. That'd be like quite the thing to say, because I don't know how you could think that, but if you do, I would like to hear about it and like your stance. Because I don't want to put anyone down, like I said with this video, or shut down any devs or thoughts or anything like that. Just a normal guy playing a game, and I have some thoughts about it. So I'd like to hear your thoughts too. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. And there's going to be another normal video on a really cool minigun build going out today, and some RuneScape stuff. So if you enjoy RuneScape, this is also mainly a RuneScape channel, so you can check that out. Both of those will be going out today. So that's actually the build you're seeing in the background. So if you like playing with miniguns, maybe try it out while it's still around, because once they nerf Massacre, then this build won't exist. But until that happens, this build is pretty fun, and it can do like CT13s and stuff like that. So hopefully you all enjoyed the video again. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you all really soon. Later.